right, everybody, welcome back. Today we are diving deep into something I think we can all relate to, America's huge fascination with movies.
Yeah, we're really captivated by them, aren't we?
Big time. And we're not just talking about box office numbers here.
Right.
We're really going to try to explore, what is it about movies that makes them so compelling to us? The trends that come and go, the debates about what makes a movie really great, and just all the cultural forces that are at play.
Mm-hmm.
So to help us unpack all of this, we're going to be taking a look at some excerpts from a proposed podcast series called Blockbuster Nation.
Okay.
And I think you're going to find this really interesting. One of the things they really want to do is redefine what it even means for a movie to be popular.
Right, because you automatically think box office success.
Yeah, you think big numbers, you think, opening weekend, all of that. But they make a really interesting point. What about cultural impact?
Yeah.
What about longevity?
Right, will it stay with you? Will you watch it again? Right.
And will it be something that we're still talking about years or even decades later?
Exactly.
And they use this really interesting example, Avengers Endgame. I mean, come on. That movie absolutely shattered box office records.
Yeah. Huge.
But will it have the same kind of lasting impact as, say, The Shawshank Redemption?
Yeah, that's a really good comparison.
Right. That's a movie that people still watch, people still quote, people still find so much meaning in, and it came out in 1994.
Exactly.
It's will we still be talking about Thanos in 2040?
Right. That's a good question.
Who knows?
Yeah.
So it really makes you think about, what audiences value.
Mm-hmm.
And Blockbuster Nation is going to take a really fascinating approach to kind of tracking the evolution of American movie tastes. They're going to do a little bit of time traveling.
What fun.
Right. They're going to look at films from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and today. Oh. And they pick these really iconic movies. They talk about E.T., Titanic, Avatar, all of these movies, massive hits in their own time. But it makes you wonder, what was it about that particular moment in time that made those movies resonate with audiences?
Well, you'd almost have to look at what was going on in the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
When E.T. came out, it was the 80s. We had, kind of like this time of, I don't know, there's something about the 80s, things felt good.
Mm-hmm.
We had some relative peace and prosperity. We were kind of coming out of, a kind of tough time in the 70s. Yeah. And E.T. really captured that sense of wonder.
Yeah, like that optimism.
Yeah, and that innocence that people really associated with that decade. Then you have Titanic, which came out in the late 90s, and it was totally different.
A very different vibe.
Yeah, the world was changing rapidly. Globalization was taking off. Technology was advancing at an incredible pace.
Right.
And Titanic, with its, epic scale, the focus on, love and loss, it kind of resonated with audiences on this global scale. It was just a phenomenon.
Yeah, I mean, people were obsessed.
Oh, totally.
I remember seeing that movie 3 times in the theater.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was hooked.
I get it.
And then you go to the 2000s with Avatar, and that movie really pushed the boundaries of visual effects.
Oh, absolutely. It was groundbreaking.
Yeah, and you can't help but think it reflects kind of this growing fascination we have with immersive technology,
Yeah, for sure.
So each one of these movies is like a little time capsule.
Yeah.
They're not just about the story. They're telling us something about where we were at as a society.
Right.
What we were thinking about, what we were craving.
Exactly.
And, you can't talk about these trends without thinking about genres.
Oh, yeah. Different genres have their moments.
Right. I mean, think about it. Westerns used to rule the silver screen.
Back in the day. Oh, yeah.
Right. And now it's all about superheroes.
They're everywhere.
Everywhere. And Blockbuster Nation spent some time dissecting this. They look specifically at the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU, and you can't deny its dominance.
No, yeah. They're a juggernaut.
They're a juggernaut. But why? What is it about these superhero stories that's speaking to us so much right now?
I think it's more than just the cool powers and the costumes.
Right.
I think it's the interconnected stories, the MCU has created this whole universe that we can get lost in. And these larger-than-life characters, they face these epic challenges, but they also have these very human struggles.
You really connect with them.
You do. And I think in a world that often feels chaotic and fragmented, these stories give us a sense of order, a sense of continuity.
That's a really interesting thought. It's we're craving that, We want these big sweeping sagas that kind of make us feel like we're part of something bigger.
Exactly. It's about belonging.
Yeah. Which kind of leads to another fascinating debate.
Right.
The one we always have. The artistic masterpieces versus the popcorn-munching blockbusters.
Right. Can they ever coexist?
Right. Critical acclaim versus box office success. And Blockbuster Nation is actually going to tackle this head-on. They're going to interview an independent filmmaker and a Hollywood studio executive. So I'm really curious, what do you think we're going to hear from these two very different perspectives?
I'm guessing the independent filmmaker is going to be all about originality, you know? The artistic vision, taking risks, pushing boundaries.
Right.
And then you have the studio executive. They're probably going to be focused on what sells, right?
The bottom line.
Yeah, you know, what resonates with a mass audience, what's going to generate those big box office returns. But I'm hoping they can find some common ground, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be some middle ground there.
Right. Because there are movies out there that manage to be both commercially successful and artistically brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
Like, look at Get Out
or
Parasite. These movies were critical darlings, but they were also huge hits with audiences.
Yeah, I mean, Parasite winning Best Picture, that was a big deal.
It was. It shows that it's possible.
Right.
You can have both.
Okay, but let's be real. The landscape is changing so rapidly right now.
Oh, yeah. Things are moving fast.
Especially with streaming and social media. Blockbuster Nation, highlights this.
Yeah.
You have a movie like Bird Box on Netflix, massive success on a streaming platform.
Right.
Then you have something like M3GN. I mean, that movie went viral thanks to TikTok.
That dance.
Right. It's crazy. So these new platforms, they're changing how movies are made, how they're marketed, how we experience them. What do you think is the biggest impact of all of this?
I think in a lot of ways it's democratizing filmmaking. You know, it's easier now more than ever for independent filmmakers to get their work out there and seen.
That's true.
And social media can make a movie a hit without a huge studio marketing budget.
It's true. But there are downsides too, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. We are absolutely bombarded with content these days.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so hard for anything to really break through the noise.
Yeah. It's like, how do you even stand out?
Right. And Blockbuster Nation talks about Barbenheimer. I mean, that was a phenomenon.
Oh, yeah.
Two totally different movies coming out at the same time, creating this huge cultural moment.
It was all over the internet.
It was everywhere, and it shows just how powerful social media can be in shaping what movies we see and talk about.
It's true. It's like the new word of mouth, but on this massive global scale.
Exactly.
And Blockbuster Nation doesn't stop there, okay? They're looking ahead to the future of film, which I'm excited about and a little scared about, honestly.
Me too.
Because they're talking about AI in filmmaking, virtual reality cinema, the growing influence of global cinema.
That's a lot to take in.
It's a lot. And it's like, are we on the verge of like a whole new cinematic era? Or is this just, a bunch of hype?
It's hard to say, but there is so much potential there. AI could change everything.
Yeah.
I mean, think about special effects, script writing. It could totally be revolutionized.
It's wild to think about.
And virtual reality. I mean, that could create completely new ways of experiencing movies. And then you have this global audience that's growing all the time. And we're being exposed to all these different stories and perspectives from all over the world. It's a really interesting time to be a movie lover.
It really is. And I think, after looking at all of this, it's pretty clear that America's love affair with movies, it's not over. It's changing.
It's evolving.
It's adapting. And it's a reflection of our world, As our world changes, so do the movies that we make and the movies that we love.
And as we move into this new era of filmmaking, we have to ask ourselves some important questions.
Yeah.
Like, are we going to see more diversity in the stories that are being told? Are we going to be able to embrace new technologies without losing that art of storytelling? Because the future of film, it's really in our hands.
It is.
As creators, as viewers, we have to decide what kind of cinematic landscape we want to create.
Well said.
What kind of stories do we want to tell, and how do we want to tell them?
I think that is a fantastic question for everyone listening to ponder.
Yeah.
What kind of movies do you want to see in the future?